Hello guys, Ashkor here and welcome back to another video. Today we're gonna be doing something completely different from what you guys are used to. We are starting a new series that will consist of many League of Legends champion guides. I want to dedicate around 20 to 30 minutes for every single champion, explaining abilities, items, runes, combos, laning and much more. Even if you know the champion's abilities, I still encourage you to watch the entire video because you might learn new things about the champion. Before we get into learning today's champion, I am going to give you a brief introduction of myself because I'm sure you have some questions about my League of Legends career. I've been playing the game for 7 years now and I know it's not much, but I've hit Platinum 3 to 4 times in the past seasons. For the past 2 seasons, I have been studying the game, learning fundamentals, laning, wave management, etc. to implement these strategies into my games. But ever since Riot doesn't really care about the state of the game, I stopped caring about my rank. So instead of being an elo grinder, I'm a mastery grinder now. Well, what does that mean exactly? So I have dedicated myself to get max mastery on every single champion in the game, and I am currently sitting at 60 Mastery Level 7 champions. The learning curve for every champion was really fun and the experience I gained is priceless. I want to share my knowledge with you guys too. Please note, I was never a challenger player and some people might have different opinions and playstyles. I'm going to only give you a kind of direction on how to play these champions so you can learn them easier. As you might have already seen, my highest mastery champion is Spike, but today we're not going to be covering him. Today's guide is going to about our favorite Vastayan marksman, Xayah. I am doing Xayah first for one of my friends who wants to get better and more comfortable with the champion. And before you expect me to do Rakan next, well, think again. I haven't really played Rakan before, so he is not on my list for now. Maybe he will be in the future. So let's talk about Xayah's abilities first. I am gonna give you a brief rundown of all the abilities and then I am gonna explain them a bit better, give you a brief example of how to use these abilities. Passive, Clean Cut. After using an ability, Xayah's next 3 basic attacks will hit all targets along their path and leave a feather. Q, Double Daggers. Xayah throws 2 damaging daggers that also drop feathers she can recall. These daggers damage every enemy in the line of the cast, but they inflict less damage to secondary targets. W, Deadly Plumage. Xayah creates a storm of blades that increase her attack speed and damage for the next few attacks while also granting her movement speed if she attacks a champion. The extra damage can also be inflicted on towers and epic monster. Use this ability as much as possible when going for objectives. E, Blade Caller. Xayah calls back all her dropped feathers, dealing damage and rooting enemies if they get hit by at least 3 feathers. R, Feather Storm. Xayah leaps into the air, becoming untargetable and throwing out a fan of 5 daggers, dropping feathers she can recall. Now I am going to give you some extra information about the abilities, some item interactions and some combos. So let's talk about the passive first. Thrown out feathers always travel a fixed distance, no matter the range you attack an enemy from. It should be noted that Runan's Hurricane doesn't throw out more feathers, so building the item is particularly useless. Q ability. When casting the ability towards a wall, it can gain some extra range if there is space behind the wall. If there isn't, the feathers appear pretty randomly near the wall, so I encourage you not to face these walls when fighting. Xayah can Q plus Flash to get a faster combo. Do not use Flash plus Q as it would be way slower. Xayah can also use Gale Force during the cast time of the Q, but while Q Flash extends the range of the ability, Gale Force doesn't. Also, you can check bushes with this ability, as a special effect will be seen if any enemies are hit. Your W is your main DPS source and your best kiting tool, as it gives movement speed after every auto for 1.5 seconds. It should be noted that the ability only stays active for 4 seconds. Also, the ability has a pretty long cooldown early on, so I recommend using it wisely. Even if the Q barely misses the target, when casting E it's gonna get hit, as E gives feathers a bigger hitbox. You can redirect E with Flash or Gale Force. Redirecting your E can make you be able to root more targets if you are off position otherwise to do so. It should be noted that redirecting feathers can also be done in the last millisecond of your ability going through. If you cast E during the cast time of Q, both feathers thrown out with Q will also return and deal some extra damage and possibly rooting an enemy. E has a bit smaller cooldown than W, but I still recommend you use it wisely. R. You can flash during R to redirect it, but you can't use Gale Force though, so keep that in mind. R makes you untargetable, so you can dodge enemy abilities and de-aggro towers at tower dives. Also, you can check bushes with this ability, as a special effect will be seen if any enemies are hit. Let's now talk about some extra combos that you may want to learn to be flashy, fast, and painful to deal with. First combo I'm gonna teach you is something I've already talked about. It's gonna be a feather auto Q plus E. It should be noted that you have to cast E during the cast time of Q. This combo, all in all, gives you 3 feathers, but the feathers aren't on the ground at the same time, which you can use for your advantage to surprise your enemy and root them in their place. The next combo I'm gonna teach you is really good when there are multiple targets around. You can use R plus Flash to get closer with R, and then E plus Gale Force to redirect your E and root more enemies. The next combo is a bit harder to pull off, as it requires you to be way faster. The combo is W plus Q plus Flash plus Auto plus E. This combo is really good when you're not in range to get more autos off. If the enemy flashes sideways, you can always redirect your E with Gale Force. And because you activated the W before starting up the combo, you don't have to deal with that later, and you save a lot of time doing this combo. The next combo I'm gonna teach you is really good when you want to surprise someone and one-shot them while looking really fancy. This combo is Q plus Gale Force plus R plus E plus Flash. Gale Force should be casted during the cast time of the Q, and you can use R to dodge abilities, and you can also auto attack between using the abilities. Flash is only required if the target moves away or there are multiple enemies in sight. Now I am gonna be talking about builds, runes, and ability max order. First, I am gonna be covering the standard build. Here, you will want to start with Doran's Blade. You can go Doran's Shield if you are against a poke matchup. Gale Force is always a solid choice for Mythic, as repositioning for better E-roots is crucial. But if the enemy comp has a bunch of tanks, going for Kraken's Xayah is viable. As a second item, you may go for Collector or Lord Dominic's Regard if you need some tank shredding capabilities. Collector is not necessary, but is generally good. Third item should either be Infinity Edge or Navori Quick Blades. Personally, I think Navori is way better, as you will be able to basically spam your W and E in fights. Boots should be Berserker's Greaves, but you may go for Mercury's Threads into CC heavy comps as well. Into AD heavy comps, you may go for Plated Steel Caps. Honestly, attack speed is not that necessary because your W gives enough anyway, so going for a defensive boot item is always a solid option. Last two items are situational or optional. Death Dance, One Mortius, Bloodthirster, Lord Dominic's Regards if you bought Collector Second are all viable options. In my opinion, more attack speed isn't necessary, so Phantom Dancer or Mortal Reminder are not that useful, but they can also be good. Mercurial Scimitar is amazing if you need QSS. As for runes, I recommend Hail of Blades or Lethal Tempo. Hail of Blades is especially good in the early game when you want to make the most out of your 4 seconds given after casting W. Lethal Tempo is better late, but Hail of Blades doesn't fall off either in the later stages of the game. With this build, with this setup, you want to max W and E and then Q, and you start W level 1 and you go for E level 2. When you are going for the poke build, instead of the Doran items, you will want to start with the Longsword and refillables. After your first base by Tier of Goddess. Build Eclipse as your mythic Ionian boots. Build Man Immune out of the Tier of Goddess as your first items. You can easily proc Eclipse's extra damage with a regular Q plus E combo, which is going to be your main trading pattern. After Eclipse and Man Immune, build Cyrilda's Grudge into Edge of Night. Last item can basically be any utility item like Mortius, Guardian Angel, etc. As for runes, go for Summonary, Mana Flow Band, Transcendence and Scorch. Secondary runes should be Magical Footwear with Biscuits. With this setup, you will want to start Q, then E, then W, and you max Q into E. I am gonna take a second to talk about summoner spells. Generally, Heal or Exhaust are both good, and Cleanse is amazing into a lot of enemy CC, like Leona support for example. But if you are confident enough, you may run Ghost and Xayah, as it synergizes really well with the W. Now I am going to be talking about some laning and matchup tips. Xayah can do best with an engaged support in my experience into short range matchups, as you can basically one-shot the enemy ADC on level 2 with Hail of Blades and W plus E. If you have an enchanter or a long-range mage support, but you are into short-range matchups, you can still do the same. If you find yourself in a long-range matchup where your lane partner isn't an engaged support, you may go for the poke build with Qmax. Generally, I would recommend going for the standard build as the poke build. While being amazing, your low elo support might not know what you're going for, and they might also troll you. Xayah can have an insane wave clear, so swapping with your mid laner in the mid game to have constant priority can be beneficial for you and your team. Xayah can fall off later stages in the game, so I encourage you to try to finish games as soon as possible. I really do hope you guys enjoyed this champion guide and it was helpful. If you think I have missed anything, please type it in the comments. As for finishing this video, here are some extra clips from the games I've played with the champion. And yes, I recorded these clips after, so my client doesn't die during the games. Now, if you took all the notes you need about the champion, it's time to sit back, relax, and enjoy. Have an amazing rest of the day, guys. See you in the next one.